Well, I'll let you start it off.
Okay.
Because I think you worded a bit more politely or more
sensitively
than I would.
Yeah, it's just a topic that I've thought about from time to time because, I used to do a lot of wedding videos and you do a lot of them in churches and, the vicar guy with the registrar or whoever would give like talks, read stuff from the Bible and stuff, and you start thinking about what they're saying and have your own takeaway on these things. And, whether you're religious or not, you can still find something to take away from. And one of the things I always wondered about really was being like a homosexual. And I want to just clarify that I'm very much straight.
Me too.
I have
Me
a kid.
too, Dan. Me too.
And I am married. Yes.
But
this topic is
single.
something that I thought for other people. So, yes. I was curious, mainly because of the Philippines, I guess, because the Philippines is, as I understand it, predominantly a Christian country. And I couldn't help but think, from what I'm not an expert in the Bible or anything like that. Believe me, I'm not an expert. I'm just things that you hear through the grapevine.
Me neither.
Good little disclaimer. I do wonder how they perceive being gay over in the Philippines, because it's common knowledge that the Philippines has quite a large gay community, as I'm sure does most of the world, but the Philippines in this particular example. But they're also quite a Christian country. So I was like, I'm sure somewhere there was a thing about Christianity and homosexuality being like considered a sin. And I was like, let me research a little bit more about this.
Oh.
So I pulled up a few pages on Google, and there's a bunch of quotes I have, and I've bolded a few of actual lines because it's quite a lengthy thing to read. But just paraphrasing, there are definitions within the Bible that say, any and all sexual activity which takes place outside of this context is treated as sinful, and what Jesus calls sexual immorality. Other quotes include, both male and female same-sex practice are treated as sinful. And also another quote that says, more of like a redemption thing, I guess, but it's still considered, I think, negatively. The prospect of forgiveness and eternal life is held out for anyone who turns from sin and puts their faith in Christ. So what that, as I understand that, is saying that, yes, you can still go down your road of homosexuality, but as long as you come back from that and you put it to one side, and basically if you give up the life of being a homosexual, then you can be once again welcomed into the arms of Christ and your life of immortality or whatever it is that they promise in the good old heaven there. Which again, is basically saying don't be
you're
gay.
Forgiven.
So I was like, and again, just going back to the whole Filipino Christian thing, they are quite religious out there.
And very religious.
They follow various aspects of the Bible. So what I just couldn't understand, if Christianity sees gay people as a sin, how is that okay to follow a religion then that deems that unacceptable? If you
in
are
the Philippines,
in the Philippines, well, anywhere, but yeah, in the Philippines,
but specifically in the Philippines, because there's quite a large community out there. Mm-hmm. They fall under the LGBTQ community, because there's no hiding the fact that there is so many people that fall in that group. I was going to ask, why does it not affect their families and religious side? But I actually don't know if it does affect their religion and how they are with their family. But and let's use this for an example. I've been in the Philippines where I've used certain dating apps, right? That's verbal. And literally, maybe every third or fourth person is either gay or transgender. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how common it is over there. Where does that fall with their religion?
I suppose it's a question that may not have an answer, or we may not.
Or do they just choose to ignore that part of the religion?
Well, then that's a different question, then, isn't it? It's like, well, how religious are you? Because you can't be half pregnant, right?
Okay, I kind of need to say this before we go any further. I'm not the most religious person in the world, although my nana, who has passed away many years ago, she was very religious. She was a Christian. Because I don't fall under the religious side or the LGBT community side, I have no issues with either. So we're just curious as to how the two come together. So we just need to make that known in case people think that we're... I hate this term because people have said this on my channel very early on. They said I was homophobic. I'm like, I don't give a shit about you enough to even feel some type of way. So I just want to make that known.
Yeah, and I also
because we're going to get hate comments on this because it's not a popular topic to talk about.
It's not. They always say if you want to, have a conversation with someone, don't involve religion or politics because it starts a heated debate.
Exactly.
But I also want to add and say that I've got family on my wife's side and my side who are gay. I've got friends who are gay, so I've got no problem.
Yeah, so do I.
People being gay,
yeah.
And I know people who are religious. I know people who are complete atheists. So
yeah.
Well, I sit on the fence. I'm open to anything, but I used to believe a lot more when I was a kid, and that's because I was probably impressionable as a child, and you not believe the stories, but you want to hope that there is something explainable. But as you get older and you see more of the world, and you see what religion does to some people, and certain belief systems, and just what in terms of the day-to-day politics of life, you then start questioning a lot of things. So it isn't that I've lost faith as such. It's just that I've had no real experience to convince me otherwise.
Yeah. I
kind of sit on it.
I'm right there. Yeah, I'm exactly. Yeah, like a lot of the stuff, it has to make sense for me to believe it. Like if it doesn't make sense to me,
science and religion is my viewpoint.
I'm kind of the same. I need some fucking proof to believe stuff. If it doesn't make sense to me, count me out of it. But we're just genuinely curious.
Yeah. And actually, just on a slight tangent here, we sometimes, not very often, but sometimes we have people knock on our door from the Jehovah's Witness, that kind of thing, or just other people trying to preach to us on our doorstep. And the first thing you think of when you open the door is, you know what I mean? Like you go, you know where it's going to go.
I've had it before. I'm just like, fuck, now I have to be polite. Like, I'm not, and because you're Mr. Nice Guy, you just can't tell them to piss off. Like,
if I see him coming down the road, I won't answer the door.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But in saying that, there have been occasions where I've answered the door, and for me, it's an opportunity not to be horrible, but I do genuinely, they try and preach me, but I generally try and ask them questions and say, well, you're doing this, okay, fine, and this is what you're telling me about the Garden of Eden and stuff. And I start saying things like, well, how do you know that exists? Have you seen it? And I
can imagine you responding that way too.
Not trying to convert them to an atheist viewpoint, but just sort of like make them question things, right? Like they're trying to make me question my everyday kind of thing. Why is that okay to be a one-way street? So I start conversing with them again, not in a horrible way. We generally have a discussion about it. It's quite interesting when you hear what they have to say. It's like trying to talk to a flat earther kind of thing. It's interesting, but it's not that heated, which is kind of nice. I'm just curious as to why the Philippines has such a huge following for Christianity, which the very religion outlaws LGBTQ communities or people.
The fact that so many people are openly gay means that they obviously, majority don't have any issues with that, and majority are religious. So yeah, why isn't it a big deal when in a lot of other countries, like, it's a big fucking deal? It's like some families would disown you. Like, it can get really bad in other countries.
In some countries, it's a death penalty.
It's fucking bad.
Maybe
that's selective when it comes to religion. Who knows?
This is
as in what they choose to believe within the religion itself.
Yeah, and that's kind of the grey area.
Maybe they just turn a blind eye to that one fact. I think that's what it might be.
If you are religious and you follow it to the letter, whether you turn a blind eye or not, you're not fully committed. And that then makes you question, well, if you're happy to turn that leaf over, then why not turn a few more leaves? Why?
True.
I suppose ultimately.
But if they've turned a blind eye to that, then chances are that they've turned a blind eye to the idea that that's a turned a blind eye.
I see that. Yeah.
So there's no issues. We're good. We're religious. Okay, fine. We can all live happily ever after.
But it's like, whatever you believe. I mean, the way I see it, and this is just my own opinion, the Bible, as old as it may be, as rewritten as it may be,
that's the whole issue for it, though. For me,
it's just like Chinese whispers, isn't it?
Exactly.
It could, but irrespective of what you believe the Bible to be, or how it's written, or whatever it is, ultimately, for me, the Bible is just a set of stories, morals. Really, it's just thought-provoking stuff to lead you on a good path of being a good citizen. Like the obvious stuff: don't murder anyone, don't shit in your neighbour's drive, for example. There's a lot of things you can take away from that, and you don't need to be religious, I don't think, to see these morals. Just if you know deep down you're a good person, you do things at the kindness of your heart, and you be a good person, that is surely enough. And a lot of that is probably upbringing through parents and people who you're surrounded with. But I don't believe it's down to religion to put you on that path. And I don't want to make this sound offensive either, so just hear me out. Santa Claus, right? We know he's not real, but the kids believe in him. And leading up to Christmas, you could tell your child, if you be naughty, you won't be on the good list and you won't get your presents. And of course, they all act good, and of course they get their presents and Santa's being and all that kind of stuff. To me, when you strip it down, there's not really a lot of difference. The Bible is the Santa Claus. So they're the stories that you get told over your childhood to push you on that path to be a good person. It's the same parallel. I'm not trying to compare Santa to God, by the way. It's just an analogy, a metaphor. But it's the same kind of logic in that sense. It's just stories being told through generations to put people on the good path. Because even down to different religions, some religions have more than one God. Some have different scripts, but the stories are quite similar. So it's just a how-to guide of being a good person.
Yeah.
In my view. And also, I think it should be taken as guidance more so than to the letter. So, going back to is it okay to be gay? Of course it is. You don't have to follow. Don't forget, these texts were written thousands of years ago, right? So if you think of just the last 50, 60 years, there's the whole voting system. Women couldn't vote. Even now, there's some countries that women can't drive. You've got laws for all sorts of things. Abortion laws coming in now. Some places are still making that illegal. Same-sex marriage is only a recent thing. Women's rights and equality, that's all very recent. If you think of thousands of years ago, what life must have been like back then, of course these texts are going to be rewritten over time just to move with the modern day. So, of course it's okay to be gay. You're not murdering anybody. And I also, I don't appreciate being preached either. I think believe what you want to believe in whatever religion you want to believe in. That's fine. Just don't let it affect my life.
Okay. I understand.
I'm not having a rant. I'm not ranting. I'm just literally like...
I think one of the great things about religion that I see is people that have no guidance in life, or they've kind of hit rock bottom. Don't know what they're doing with themselves, or like looking for the next drink, next puff, next whatever, and they turn to the Lord and they can completely change their life around. I feel like in instances like that, religion is great. Even if I don't technically believe in a certain religion. So in some ways it's good. It's good for people. Because sometimes people need something. They need something in life to believe in, to turn to when times are hard, or just to get through life in general.
Yeah, and I know people who have had those experiences, and that's absolutely fine. Like, going back to what I just said, you can believe whatever religion you want to believe in. You can hit rock bottom, find the Lord, change life around. Fine. That's on that person. If that helps them get through the hardships, if that helps them change their life, go from poverty to being rich, whatever it might be, and you can put it on luck or fate or the Lord. Is it all the same thing? No one knows. Whatever it is, that's fine. But it's when it's pushed into your face that this is what you've got to do and that's how you have to behave. That's the kind of stuff. That's why I think religion can be dangerous. But I know we are going off a bit of off topic here. But yeah, religion I think should be taken as guidance. Ultimately, change the rules where you want to change them, make it fit you, but just be the best person you can be.
I can agree with that.
I still try to be sensitive about that topic because it is quite it's a big subject and it can open a lot of
I mean, if you were to put me in a religious environment, I'm not going to be disrespectful. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't have any issues with religion. I just don't necessarily believe in any sort of religion.
And actually, having done a lot of weddings over my years, I've done a lot of Hindu weddings, I've done a lot of Sikh weddings, Muslim weddings. It's interesting, even though I don't necessarily believe what they talk about or anything, read from, but it's very interesting to watch, and the sort of ceremonial aspects of the event is always really fascinating, with like petals and the little fire, and I'm sure there's all technical words for all this kind of stuff, but it's very fascinating to watch, and the colours, and it's a beautiful, weddings are just beautiful to be in. So every religion will obviously have its own way of doing things, for weddings or funerals or just life in general. Like, if you go to your local church or your local mosque or whatever it might be, they'll all have their way of doing things. And it's just fascinating to explore that. Again, it doesn't directly affect me, but it's just really interesting, if nothing else, more than, curiosity, just to kind of see people's backgrounds and cultures. And, I love traveling, that's no big secret. So I love I've been into temples, and just to be in awe of this whole nother culture, really, that I don't know anything about. So it's really fascinating from an outsider's point of view to explore other religions, if not to be involved in religion as such, but just to kind of be a part of that for a day or for an hour or whatever it might be. It's really fascinating. Like, it doesn't have to be religion as such, but even just like backgrounds when it comes to like your natives as well. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, because we have our own beliefs as well, just as a culture.
It's just a really fascinating subject. It's a massive subject, but just totally fascinating to me. So yeah, just a sort of a general comment really for people who might be watching this podcast on YouTube. If you are in the LGBTQ community and do follow religion quite heavily, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this subject and just kind of try and get an understanding really as to your mindset.